everyone, and welcome to the Leadership Heart Podcast with Sandra J. Horton, the Growth Catalyst. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Leadership Heart Podcast, the show where bold innovation meets conscious leadership. I am your host, Sandra J. Horton, and I believe that leadership is not about titles. It's about impact and intention and the courage to serve others. On this podcast, we will go beyond strategy and surface level success to real and honest conversations with change makers like Chiko in healthcare, in health tech, in innovation, social impact, and beyond. You'll hear from visionary leaders who are truly building organizations that put people first. Leaders who understand that in a world powered by technology, it's humanity that must lead the way. So if you're ready to lead with more purpose and clarity and heart, you are in the right place. So let's dive in. Let's bring our beautiful guests today. I'm going to bring up our wonderful, here we go, Chiko. Thank you, Chiko. I am going to do this beautiful honoring of your lovely name, Scozzafava. I hope I said that right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chiko. So welcome to the Leadership Heart Podcast. Really, truly is an honor. And, I want to spend a little bit of time now just introducing you. Your bio is just so amazing and so, for me, very impressive. And Chiko is a dedicated executive, and she's a strategist who has a passion for climate sustainability, innovation, and inclusive leadership in tech, which I absolutely love. She's a unique background. She actually spans from being a role in the U.S. Secret Service as a special agent. That is incredible. As a nonprofit executive and trusted advisor for tech startups and impact-driven companies. Chiko brings a deeply human-centered approach to systems change. And thank you for that, because I love my systems change. She leads efforts in strategy and operations and business continuity. And she does a lot of really wonderful work in bringing consistency across these organizations. And welcome, everyone. Welcome. I will be coming in. Please put where you're listening to us live. And she also really understands the demands placed on nonprofit leaders today, from fundraising pressures to limited resources. Chiko is about to launch, and we will talk about this today, Chiko. I'm going to come to you in a second. AI for nonprofits. That is a huge area and a really needed area, which will offer practical, role-specific AI training for nonprofit leaders to build efficiencies and reclaim the time to focus on what matters most: communities and donors and staff. You believe in the depth of designing for not just for, but for communities. And we were very fortunate, you and I, to meet at the Global AI Council. Welcome, Chiko. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that introduction really just wrapped right around you and you're feeling inspired.
Thank you, Sandra. It's an honor to be here, and I'm really excited for our conversation today and to continue what we started talking about a few weeks ago. So thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, as I always do on this podcast, I love to bring in a little spontaneity and some fun things. So maybe you can share with my audience who are live or will be listening to this on all the podcast platforms, what is one interesting, maybe a little known fact that really has helped shape you as a leader?
Yeah, this is a great question. And, maybe a lot of people don't know that I grew up on a farm, a working farm. And, as a kid, I was in the fields working. And I think it's really shaped who I am as a leader. I think it's taught me, if anyone has worked on a farm before, the real meaning of hard work. A lot of times they go unrecognized, but it's really about this sheer grit and resilience and just being dedicated to something that you might not see the immediate results from. And I think, today we're used to this instant gratification, but, growing up on a farm, it really taught you patience, and taught you to value things and not take it for granted. So I don't know if a lot of people know that about me, but that's where I started.
Wow. And I love the word about like doing the good work, but also the grit behind it. And, kind of leading into the next question that perks my curiosity would be, you've worked across so many different types of sectors, from federal service to working with nonprofits. I mean, that is completely different to now tech startups, completely different areas. So what has like your journey taught you about your own voice? Like for me, knowing my own voice was a unique experience to really stand into my own power and how to have service and also your own leadership style. So what have you really kind of brought to each of those different sectors? I'm quite curious.
Yeah, I think from a very early age, there were a few things that shaped how I thought. And, one was having a vision, always thinking about the what is possible. And
Mhm.
then two, it's about having this purpose, like what really matters. So I would always, I think, throughout my different phases of my professional life, is think about what's the vision, what's possible, what's my purpose, like what's going to really matter in what I do. And then thinking about the service, I think I've just led this career where I've been driven by this service type of leadership. And for me, that's the heart behind how and why you do things, which for me has been incredibly important and incredibly rewarding. And I think it's finding a space where you can be yourself, that you can share with others, and I think have this reciprocal type of relationship where I just love learning from other people. And I think as I get to share more about my experiences, I equally learn so much from so many people. So yeah, I think through the years and through the different phases, I've really just maybe kept that thread consistent. And it's helped
I
me
love that.
in so many ways.
Yeah, and I love, the reflection, the inner work of understanding, because for many people, I've seen it, I've only personally experienced myself, where we may not have been personally fully self-aware to see the consistency, seeing the threads that run through our lives. And that moment of, well, who am I and where am I actually going? Is that moment of that inner work, right? To really stop and say, what kind of leader do I want to be? What kind of person am I? Like, who am I? Like, what am I doing here? How did I get here? So these are all really intertwined between all of them, but knowing what you just shared is that self-awareness. So as a leader, working across, having this self-awareness from within to without, bringing people together, building that trust so they can see you being consistent, right? They
Mhm.
feel you, they experience, and they see you doing that wonderful work. Today is so challenging, with all this complexity.
Yeah.
In your own personal experience, being successful in, working the Secret Service, working with nonprofits, what have you found to be the essential elements or pieces to really help people come along and work through that complexity?
Yeah. This is a really interesting question because I think we're all faced with complexity, but simplicity. But there's also this uncertainty that we face every day. I think
Mhm.
that's just part of the uh, excitement of life in the unknown. But I think with the uncertainty and complexity, it can be hard on teams. So as a leader, a couple of things that I've always tried to do is ground my team and those that I'm leading in what we actually know. Okay, there are some things that we certainly do know. And it's being honest about the things that we don't know, because we don't know everything. But I think it's being honest and building that trust. And I think it's a way to embrace, the reality of any situation. But then as a leader, it's articulating a path forward. And that path could change over time. But I think giving people this sense of a direction,
Mhm.
being heard and understood, allowing them to speak how they're experiencing things, what their fears are, what their aspirations are, giving them that sense of being heard, seen, understood, but then also helping them see a direction forward is incredibly important. And, I think many of us, we experience this through COVID. I'm just thinking through while I was at a large nonprofit and thinking about, you're transitioning people through a period of time where it was so unknown, so uncertain, so complex. But again, as I reflect back, it was really thinking about what do we know and making sure that we keep, our teams informed, what we might not know yet based on science and the situation, but then really being clear about how we want to move forward. And I've learned that that works really well. And it might sound simple, but, I think as leaders and even as someone being led, it's always a great feeling to be embraced for, how you're thinking, how you're feeling, but also knowing that there's a direction forward.
Yeah, I love that. And, even in the work that I'm doing through healthcare and also my consulting, it's really interesting and fascinating because there are those opportunities where the tonality is so important of that leader, the
Mhm.
receptivity of that, the openness, like you talked also about building trust. And it's interesting, particularly in healthcare and all the changes that we're seeing, that the leader who can truly be open, embrace, hey, I don't know everything. I need to be, I need to fall forward. I need to be able to be vulnerable and to share, this is what I know. Like you said, this is maybe the areas that we don't understand right now, but this is the path forward. So I love that. It's almost like you're bridging, like what William Bridges or others talk about the theory, where it's like the past is done. We're in this gray zone and we're
Mm,
going to move forward, right?
right, right.
And it's embracing that uncomfortableness, right?
Yeah. And it's this journey that we all go on together, right? We
Yes.
experience things every single day that, challenge us that maybe we're not sure about. But that's the beauty of it when we get to do it together. Um,
Yeah.
and, I think that's what's so important about leading teams and being in community.
And it is interesting when we reflect about the different areas, because I really want to offer, because you have such a beautiful background. I just love the background, but particularly for nonprofits. Now, I'm a vice chair in an amazing nonprofit. I used to have my own nonprofit as well, Women's Collaborative Hub. And I really feel that through COVID, and especially now with reduction in, resources, people aren't perhaps giving as much as we know when we look around the globe back to nonprofits. They're very limited. They're really challenged to find a balance between managing their stakeholders, managing their resources, managing the programs that they're delivering. With all that how have you been able to help support leaders like through this uncertainty, but really find inner balance for themselves and their teams?
Mm. Oh, this is such a great question, especially right now.
Mhm.
And, being in nonprofits for the last 10 years, I've just really seen the heart behind nonprofit leaders. And, they're doing this work in our communities on the front lines that just matter so much every single day. But like you said, resources are stretched. It's a tough time
Mhm.
right now. I think, you're trying to do more with less. And I think, I read a statistic recently that, leaders, 95% of nonprofit leaders are concerned about burnout for themselves and their teams. I mean, it's a very real thing.
Mhm.
And there's no real like magic answer. I think when people are so passionate about something and they want to serve and they want to fulfill this mission, it's beautiful. But one of the things that I like to think about is that that vision, what's possible, right? Like I started with.
Yeah.
And Sandra, you and I had this conversation around AI, and I think there are many things to consider, but one that I'm really interested in is around AI. And, it's here, it's not future, it's actually present, as many of us know. But I think
Mhm.
nonprofits haven't yet grasped it in a way that can really help them navigate through limited resources, limited time. And I
Mhm.
think if we were able to equip them a little bit better, inform them, educate them. And it's one of the reasons that really drove me to think about creating, AI for nonprofits that could train nonprofit leaders with small modules that can give them practical hands-on applications and experiences to know how to get back some of that time, to maybe shave down some of the workload that they're carrying. And
Mhm.
by doing so, it's freeing up time for them to do what's probably most important. That's spending time with people. So it's not that
Mhm.
AI is replacing people, but in this case, and in my opinion, it's creating more space for them to be with people. And I'm hoping, as this transformation comes forward and we see AI continuing to scale and do wonderful things, that we do so responsibly, that we do so in a way that's equitable, that we democratize it so that everyone can have access to it, and we do so in a way that is really thoughtful and intentional. But I'm really excited that nonprofits, can really lean into this as an opportunity to really make differences.
And I want to give a quick shout out to the Global AI Council with Kate Hancock and her group. It's, that's how we connected. And it
Yeah.
really is truly powerful because each of us has a place to support that, to democratize AI, to
Mhm.
really help support those entities, particularly the nonprofits that in the past, they've just been overwhelmed. Like there's so much policy, so many regulations.
Right.
This piece kind of gets left because their overall idea is, oh, it's going to cost too much, but
Right.
it
And
doesn't have to,
right. And
right?
it can feel overwhelming. I think, like,
Yeah,
for any of us, when it's something new and you're busy and
yeah.
you feel like, oh, it's one more thing that I need to figure out. So it can be overwhelming. And it really
Mhm.
is just about demystifying it and making it very straightforward, making it very practical, and
Yeah.
making it, tailored to the roles and the responsibilities that they have.
Yeah. And I also see a lot of the AIs now, AI reframe, a lot of the nonprofits who are venturing into bringing in AI. Hi, Nilsen, Jill. Thank you so much. Thank you for our, appreciating our interesting conversation. It is interesting because it's a mindset. It's a shift in our mindset, and that AI doesn't need to be exclusive to a certain, corporate entity. It could actually be utilized by everyone. I mean, we're using it. I know our nonprofit New View Society is looking at it as well, not only to save time, but also to handle and give back more time to be with the client, the front, centered, talking to our clients, to our patients, people that we serve. So, I'm going to go shift a little bit here because even in the nonprofit world, as in others like high stake environment, it's our ability as a leader to be able to take in this information, a new mindset and openness, like you said, building that trust with others to come with you. How have you been able to help? And I know we're both ACMP, like the Association of
Mhm.
Change Management Professionals. How
Yeah.
have you been able to help, or those who are listening here, how have you been able to help others to go through this change, to really embrace, preparing for the change, working through the change, and then sustaining the change? So what have you found in these, whether it's nonprofit or high paced kind of high traction areas, to help people through that change? Are there any tips or tools, insights that you have to share?
Well, I don't know if this is a tip, but I think what's
Mhm,
really important is to meet people where they're at, right?
mhm,
Everyone, um, you know, regardless of what they do as a profession or if it's a nonprofit or profit, you have to think about what really matters to them and what's
right.
important, and then meeting them exactly where they're at. And if we're thinking in an example such as, AI, and if we wanted to take that into a certain environment, it's really focusing on what's the value and what matters to that leader, and how are we going to use, in this case, AI, to help that leader do something that is of value. And in your case, the example that we just talked about is giving them more time to be with
Mhm,
donors, to do fundraising, more time to be in the community, to work on mission impact. Maybe it's more time to work with their leaders and staff, so they have that face time rather than the administrative load. So I think really just being in tune with your audience and understanding what really matters to them and meeting them there. That can oftentimes be very simple, but often overlooked when we try to, uh, you know, we might get excited about all these different opportunities and things that we could deploy, and transformations and change management. And there's all these great, you know,
mhm.
methodologies, and sometimes it's just simplifying it and coming right back to what's important.
I love that. And, it makes me reflect about the importance of empathy, like
Mhm.
really opening ourselves up to understand another person's perspective. And where AI is now coming into that merging and into innovation. And I see that in healthcare. I see that in my consulting work that I'm doing. There's this unique space that we're creating right now. Like I'm doing this round circle thing. Like I feel like it's multiple circles that are all kind of coming together. And
Yeah.
in the inner essence of it is a conscious leader who is open, who has this empathy to work with the people, but also understand the demands of moving forward in innovation. So, how have
Mm.
you been able to help support that leader who perhaps maybe feels like, hey, that's me. I'm in this middle of this, intertwined, circled, I'm creating this new change. What can I do? How can I show empathy? How can I also, though, drive change?
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I love the circles. I'm a real visual person too, Sandra,
I know, it kind of came together.
and I do see it as circles or a Venn diagram. And to
Yeah.
me, it's almost like what I said is meeting people where they're at and thinking
Yeah.
about what brings value. So to that, I mean, empathy is meeting people where they're at, right, and bringing them along. It's understanding who they are, what's important to them. It's making that connection. So the empathy for me is what matters, and the innovation, which is a beautiful bookend to that, is what's possible, right?
Mhm.
And thinking what would be valuable for this person. So I think it's almost this journey. It's this round, the Venn diagram, but this journey of, where are you, and having this empathy as a leader to meet them and understand them, but also this innovative mindset and openness to think about, wow, what is possible? What could we do to bring value and to make change that is really going to help move things forward, whether that's a nonprofit, for profit, or any other work or project or engagement that someone might be involved with.
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to dive into this little piece because I know that you are an amazing advocate for climate action, for really understanding impact, because this is where that
Mm.
intersectionality also, like we can be as open as we are, we can be as empathetic as we can be, we can drive the change, but there's an impact. There's always an outcome of anything that we bring forward. So I love to understand, from your experience, I know you've been doing a lot of great work. We were talking a little bit earlier about this.
Yeah.
What do we need to be aware of when it comes to the impact of what we're doing?
Yeah. And then I'll speak specifically to AI because I think this is
Yeah.
something I would love to have more conversations
Mhm.
about. And I'm not sure if we are. So I'm glad that we can do it here, Sandra, in
Yeah.
this space. And it's, technology, AI, it is here, it is scaling, it is going fast, which is great. There's a
Mhm.
positive side, certainly to AI when we're using it responsibly and thinking about, um, the impacts it has. To your point, those impacts could be very positive, but they could also be very negative. And so, as someone that is really passionate about climate sustainability and thinking about the planet, we know that AI and data centers use a massive amount of energy, and their carbon footprint is large. As AI scales, we know that this is a problem that needs to be solved. So, again, it goes back to that innovation, let's continue to have these conversations. I think it is looking to investments in renewables, in clean tech. It is climate forward policies. It is, holding people accountable, is having these tough conversations and thinking about these partnerships where we can really build sustainable systems. And if we're thinking about scaling AI, I really like nature-based solutions, coming from a farm, being a surfer, someone that loves the ocean. You know, algae is very interesting to me, and we'll probably have another conversation on this another day, Sandra. But
Yeah.
when we think about carbon capture or the amount of pollution that's in the air, many people think about trees as being, able to sequester carbon emissions. But what's interesting as I'm learning more about the ocean
Mhm.
is that algae, studies have shown that they can actually sequester 400 times more faster than trees. And there's an opportunity there if we look at how much of our planet is covered by the ocean. studies are evaluating if we just use a sliver of that 9% of the ocean and have these algae farms, that we could remove all of the emissions from cars, every single car on this planet, twice over, just from those 9% of
That's
algae.
amazing.
Yeah, and it is amazing because it doesn't impact our food supply, right? I think if anything, there's a positive here. There's byproducts from the algae production, which could be interesting for biofuels and other products that we could explore. So not to go too deep into that, but it's just thinking about that innovation side of the solution set and recognizing, having the conversation that AI is, for those of us that like AI and technology, it's doing wonderful things. It is scaling, but it also does have, it does use a lot of energy. So we need to think about how are we going to offset that? And I hope that as we continue to move forward at this accelerated pace, we'll start to accelerate the pace of climate action and climate talk and climate investments and climate work. So, yeah.
I love it. And I think this really, it just comes in so wonderfully. My heart is happy, and this is the Leadership Heart podcast. So I'm like, yes, this is excellent. Diving into it now, because again, we come in as a leader. If we have this, conscious leadership, we're open, we're engaged, we're bringing people along with us. They're seeing us, showing, feeling, demonstrating. They know we are it. They're seeing the innovation like through AI. If we are able to truly balance the impact with all that we do, I think this is the sustainable way forward. And this is it's going to be our legacy, how we are able to handle this. So I'm going to take us on a different kind of fun little bit of a turn. So as a woman who has done a lot of this work, you have been, in that Secret Service where it was mostly male dominated. I would say a general outside observant would say it's mostly male dominated. You've had to come in, speak up your truth, come forward with some new ideas, with these innovations, new ways of being, challenge the status quo. This to me kind of fits nicely into this whole conversation. Like, what have you learned to build that trust? I'm sure there's been setbacks. You've had to build some resilience. You've had to be, forceful, perhaps assertive. Let's reframe that, assertiveness. Personally, what are some things that women who are like, hey, I really resonate with Chiko. I want to do some more climate change. I want to do, AI. I want to do something different in the work that I do. Anything that you would love to share that you found, practices, tips, strategies, insights that you could share?
Well, there's so many. First of all, just do it is what I'd say. But I think a quote from Stephen Covey, I think, said, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And so whatever that main thing is for you, zero in on that and give it your all. Doesn't matter what age you are, if you're just starting your career. I mean, I'm thinking back to when I was a kid, I would zero in as a child that I wanted to be a federal agent. I mean, not saying that everyone has that experience, but like whatever it is that is your dream, whatever it is that's your vision, zero in on that as your main thing. And then just show up. Take those steps of faith, learn, listen, and be consistent. I think for me, those have been really important. And it was less about me being a minority, a woman in, a male-dominated environment. I mean, I spent 10 years. I did protective advances for the Secret Service in Southeast Asia. I was the India and Pakistan country agent. So I would, help prepare all of these advanced work for the visits. And in those diplomatic conversations with high-level government officials, yes, I was probably the only woman in a culture where that wasn't the norm. And it was very challenging at first, but what I told myself, remember the main thing. What was I called to do? What was my purpose? I remembered to be myself, be professional, stand my ground, be respectful, learn, listen, and be consistent. I think that is what helped carry me through, and over time build that trust with my counterparts in Southeast Asia. Um, I think it's really interesting that sometimes we all come in with these biases and we think certain things
Mhm.
just based on our own experiences. But if we take a moment to really get to know people and to hear and listen and think about perspectives, it is incredible what you can do and accomplish. And it's something that I've just learned. So through my life, I want to say. So I think for anyone, it's just think about what your main thing is, stick with it, do it, go forward, be consistent, be thoughtful, be kind. Um, and yeah, just do it.
I love that. Like my heart is so happy. That was so wonderful because what I'm taking away from this is the importance of really knowing your values,
Yeah.
knowing who you are, what do you value, how do you want to show up in this world, and then with the right consistent action, the main thing is the main thing. It is like we're saying, thank you so much again for the wonderful comments. It's great advice. And people are loving that. Thank you, Chico. I think that is the consistency. You have to do the good work. You have to know yourself and then go and do the good work. So
Mhm.
I'm going to tangent just a little bit more around I've experienced you about building intentional community. And so
Oh, yeah.
that works in nonprofit, that works in all the things that you do. Let's roll that out. Let's expand that thought because all of these values, how you're showing up with consistency, people are experiencing you. So how do we as great leaders build that intentional community to support and sustain these great projects that you've talked about earlier, or the work that you're doing or others are doing?
Oh, I just love this, Sandra. This is great. And I'm so passionate about community. And I think as I travel, I always look for ways to bring people together. Maybe it's just a coffee chat, or maybe, it's a walk, but there's intention there. There's always this vision, purpose, and service I think about every time I bring people together. But the sense of community, I think again, it goes back to this reciprocal experience. You get
Mhm.
to hear and learn what others are experiencing. There's a lot that people are experiencing right now that they're thinking about, that they're embarking on. You can learn a lot just by listening to other people. And it's also a beautiful thing to be able to share about your own experiences to get this feedback. And it's almost like and if you've ever gone and you've been in this community, it can just be a handful of people, or maybe it's a larger group. But there's something very magical about that. And I always encourage my friends and my colleagues to do this. There'll be times I think, like for all of us, oh, I'm too tired, I don't want to do this, but for some reason you nudge yourself, oh, okay, I'll go. And when you do
Let's
that,
go. You know?
when you do
Yeah.
that, you're blessed, you're surprised, you are moved, you learn something. It's There's always a win there. And I think that's something that
Mhm.
just, if you're not sure about, take that step of faith and attend something, try something new, go to an event. You might not know anyone, just go and learn, experience. And I think you'll be surprised as leaders that there is this beautiful give and take in that environment. And I hope to see more of that, especially coming out of COVID, where people are
Mhm.
now getting together more. You can do it virtually. But there's this coming together that's a really beautiful thing. And so, yeah, I can't wait
Mhm.
to see you and be in community again, Sandra, in person.
That was so wonderful. I love the connection. And it goes back to that heart-centered space, doesn't it? Really, Chico. It's opening ourselves up, getting out of our heads. Because I have found in not only my own personal journey, but working with others, if we're too caught up in our head, we forget about the heart. And if we're able to open that mirror into ourselves and just stop and observe ourselves, really engage in that rapport, like actively listen, like what did Chico say? How does that resonate? Like taking that moment of being present with someone. I want to kind of go there. I know we, kind of talking a little bit about that present moment,
Mhm.
so that people can feel you and experience you. I really think it's important because accessibility and how we invite diversity of voices in, really, it requires that. It requires our openness to remove that ego and just allow people to be seen.
Yes, yes. Oh, thank you for thinking about this, because I think every single person has experienced something where they might have felt left out or maybe not included, and it's a terrible feeling. So as leaders, I think it's so important to think about those perspectives, and by accessibility or by diversity, it means many, many things, right? It's not just
Mhm.
about ethnicity, it's not just about age. It might be your background, it might be, where you live, it might be your physical abilities. I mean, there's so much to think about in accessibility. And one of the things that you and I talked about before that I want to bring up that's so important is, as we're building, as there are things that as leaders we are putting together, engineers, AI, programmers,
Mhm.
really thinking on the with, not just for. So when you're building something, when you're leading with, not just for a purpose, right? And it's bringing people along on that journey with you that makes life richer. And I'm learning that more and more as, I get older,
Mm.
how important that is. And leading with the heart can have
Mhm.
so much impact. And I think not just the gratitude that I feel, but um, just the wonderful sense of doing what you've been called to do and helping someone along the way, just as you've been helped on your journey. That's what it's all about.
Oh, I love that. And thank you for your beautiful presence, because that's different, right? The presence is your energetically and how you're showing up so open and authentically, because you are fully aware of yourself and your impact. And I really want to thank you because the not only advice, but the practices and the experience that you've gone through, you're sharing. And that's what makes this so rich. Because
Mm.
at the leadership heart, you're not just telling everyone, you're sharing your personal experience. So as a woman of a certain age, if you were to want to share with that younger generation that is coming up, who has this opportunity, all these possibilities in front of them right now, what would you say to them as we kind of wrap up our their leadership heart podcast? We've got a few more questions, but this is an important one because we have a legacy, we have an impact that we're going to leave. What would you like to say to maybe either your younger self, up and coming aspiring leaders, of what to consider if
Ah,
they're going to lead?
there's so much to consider, but I would say believe in yourself and go for it. So
Mhm.
no one, I remember even as a kid on the farm, like having these dreams that people thought were, what are you talking about? Do not ever discount your dreams, what is deep within you, what your calling is. Just go for it. And things might not always turn out exactly like we think, and that's okay. But it's
Mhm.
this experience that you go through on the journey, and being open to that, being open to learning all the things that we talked about today, the purpose, the service, the community, being with people, listening, being authentic. That is what is so rewarding. So if anyone's at a point where they're thinking like, okay, well, what should I do, or how do I start? It is really just be yourself, follow what is driving inside of you, that dream that you're holding. That's the
Mhm.
main thing, and just go for it. Take a step, learn something new, read a book, attend a listen to a podcast, talk with someone, reach out to, maybe if it's someone you don't know, just reach out to have a virtual coffee. But those, I think, are things that anyone can do at any age, at any level of experience, um, to really think about just making those impacts that they've been, put on this earth to make. So I'm excited to hear stories about, others'
Yeah.
journeys, and listening to all of those. There's highs and lows in life, but there's a lot of greatness that happens from those moments.
I love that, and thank you for those gentle reminders. And so I would offer for those who are listening today, take a note down on your piece of paper beside you, and a sticky note, and a 8.5 by 11. Write down what is really resonating for you today. What are some of those simple actions, those simple things that you can do today easily now that will move your life forward? What are you committing to in your beautiful life? What is that big, beautiful dream that you have? Write it out. You don't need to share it. You just write it out. Just get it out of you, because we all have it within us. And it's just like step into that beautiful power and just to move forward. So as we wrap this up, it just seems it's gone so quickly, Chiko. I'm like, I have so many more things to share, but we will have you back on again. I'm like, what? We just started.
For sure.
So I want people to be able to get to connect to you, to get to know you. I know you're doing some good work. You're launching something we talked about a little bit earlier. Can you share a little bit about that, and then how people can connect with you and to support you? Because again, we're building intentional community. So I would love for this community to support Chiko.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I think, well, first of all, thank you for having me today. This has been incredible, and time just flew by. And I would love to continue to build community and connect with others. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn. Send me a note. I would love to connect and find a way to learn more about what others are doing. And I think for me, I'm very passionate about, as we talked about, climate, and also about AI and technology. And I think the opportunities to help nonprofit leaders. So with AI for nonprofits, we're really working on building this easy curriculum that's tailored to different roles within nonprofits, so that they can quickly and easily digest things and put them into practice right away. I think there's so many AI tools out there that can give them the space and ability if they just have the knowledge and the guidance for it. So going to keep it simple, make it easy for them, and hopefully help them make greater impacts. And I did want to tell you about this one quote, because I have it here on my desk, as you mentioned about, maybe you want to jot something down and put it on your computer. I did want to share this because it really did speak to me, and it sits here on my desk. And maybe if it does impact anyone else today, I'd like for them to hear it too. I'm going to read it from my card here. It's a quote. It says, "The key to realizing a dream is to focus not on success, but significance. And then even in the small steps and the little victories along the path, you will take on greater meaning. They will take on greater meaning." It's just a beautiful quote that was from Oprah, but it just reminds me about, we think about success, and, it's important that we accomplish things, but it really is significance. And to reflect back and ask yourself, like, what have I done that's significant, or what can I do that's significant? I think that's just a beautiful thing.
Oh, I love that. That is just, I got goosebumps. So your heart is so beautiful. Your impact is large and wide, and always continues to grow. And thank you for being this beautiful, conscious leader. Thank you for the openness to engage from your Canadian friend who flew down to LA, and we got to Canadian. You came in from Hawaii. It's just, it's a beautiful, beautiful world which we live. And again, at the Leadership Heart podcast, we really bring in incredible people like Chiko today to share their journeys, offer some wonderful insights, some practices, some strategies. And then I champion you as we conclude today. What are you going to do? I'm going back to that, because it's one thing to hear it, one thing to experience it and feel it, but it's then, how do we activate ourselves? How do we activate the internal success, the motivation to go and do the good work, and then commit to that? And through and over time, with that right, consistent, wonderful action, building an intentional community, like Chiko said, you can truly achieve that positive impact. So let's go and make some positive impact together. Thank you again, Chiko. What a beautiful honor. I'm going to bring you down, but I'm going to catch you on the backside, as I want to thank you again for just your heart, for your openness to share. And we will do this again, because there's so much more that we can definitely dive into, for sure. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you again in a couple days. I have another amazing Nicole Donnelly is going to be here in the wonderful AI world. So that is on Thursday. So stay tuned. Wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you, Chiko. We will see you in just a moment. Bye for now, everyone. Thank you.